This is definitely one of my best builds so far, a aviary for the red-crowned cranes. Let's get started. Yes, I am a total dumbass. Why? Because this video was basically on the shelf, or actually this build was on the shelf for a long time because I got completely enveloped in another build and pushed this one to the side of like, yeah, I will record that voiceover later, I will, finish this video later. And then there was a week without videos because of that. You will see why I pushed this video to the side for a bit in the next video. Anyways, let's get back onto today's video. The video that I pushed aside because of another build that I was doing. Yeah, I also said that this was my greatest build or habitat so far, which makes that even weirder that I pushed it to the side. But the reason why I think this is my greatest build ever is because I really sat down for this one. I was just like, yes, I need to just go full like 120%, maybe even 200, because who needs sanity these days? Anyways, so what we're building right now, as I said, is the red-crowned crane habitat slash aviary, because if Plant Zoo is not giving us birds, then damn it, I will build aviaries for birds that can't really fly. Yeah, red-crowned cranes can probably fly in real life, and even in Planet Zoo, when they do their little jump animation, they kind of do the like chicken flying thing, like when you throw a chicken in the air and tries to fly but it can't. Chickens can't fly, right? Like I know penguins can't fly, but I've always been doubtful of chickens. Because chickens can't fly, right? Right? Yeah, you can really just put in the comments of this video today, it's like, yeah, Poison is a dumbass, and he confirms it every video, so that should just basically be a basic response to any of my videos. It's just like, yeah, Poison is really just proving how much of a dumbass he is every video. Anyways, moving on from the chickens, because now I'm thinking of chicken nuggets, because that's also a recurring theme in my videos, just chicken nuggets. But anyways, what we're building right now is just the entrance for the guests to the aviary, because as I said, I went all out. I didn't want something small, I really wanted something that would just draw your eye immediately. Because the rest of like the, I'm just going to say hilllands or mountainous Asian area, is a little bit more obscured by the mountains. And this aviary is the first thing that you're going to see moving on from the entrance to this area. So it was really just like, yeah, this needs to just draw your eye immediately, make you interested and intrigued of like, what's that? And then just trap you. Basically, the same thing needs to happen with the gift store, which is why it's right front and center in front of the entrance. But yeah, when it came to the entrance of the aviary, it was just like, yeah, I need a lot of height, so we're going to build some kind of tower, but then it needs to be fancy and modern, so this was built at like 3 AM in the morning, because the best things happen at 3 AM, or the worst things. Yeah, for some reason, my best ideas are just like at 3 AM. And nope, not in daytime or anything, or, when it's like when I came out of work, because this was actually built when I was still working at my internship, which is now finished, which means that I have a lot more time, which means that builds like this might happen more often. But yes, for some reason it's like, it's the 3 AM. What is going on with like the 3 AM and like being the most creative there? Yeah, I would love sleep, but my brain says no. And anyways, moving on to the actual aviary, now that the tower entrance is done, which really just like that tower just shoves this habitat or this aviary in your face as soon as you approach the Asian area, which is going to be a real difficult thing when I like build like another area right next to it, which I have no idea what it's going to be. Like there's like space left in the cranny of the pot, and I'm like, oh yeah, European area. Everything is probably going to be overshadowed by this aviary, at least with that tower. Also, yes, the aviary, when it came to like the fencing, that was done at like daytime, because that's just a mindless thing of like oh yeah, I need to change this fence a little bit so that it doesn't clip or that you don't see it like just being in a complete mess. That's the only thing that like I really don't like about building aviaries, and which is why I would totally understand if Planet Zoo places their birch in the walkthrough habitat, because I'm a builder. I like building things, but even I am just like, yeah, building aviaries custom is really annoying because it's not difficult, it's just so mindless and tedious at points that I'm just like, yeah, your standard Planet Zoo player is not going to want to build their own custom aviary. Maybe you will like get like, I think there are like aviary pieces that people have built and put on the workshop. Like maybe you will build like an aviary with that, but like a full custom aviary, that's just going to destroy your brain. Anyways, moving on to the actual sleeping area, because I've completely forgotten what the name of this building actually is. But yeah, what I'm building right now, I was thinking of like, oh yeah, let's give it a full like traditional roof with like the angular pieces, and then I was just like, that doesn't really work, but I really love this how it looks right now. So these like angular pieces that are supposed to be on like the, well, corners of the roof are just there because it looks nice. It shouldn't be there, but it just looks nice to me, and so I kept it. So sometimes builds are made out of mistakes, just like some people. Anyway, let's move on from that. I mean, I've made so many mistakes in life that it's just like, yeah, half of my personality was probably formed by that. Anyways, to the actual build. So, is it a bit of a large thing for just the red-crowned cranes to sleep in? Probably, maybe not. I just like having like a large indoor space where you can just, well, it's basically 90% windows, so the guests can just see everything in there. But again, like this habitat was supposed to be like the eye catcher of the Asian mountain area, because after the Asian mountain area we are getting another Asian area, but that's like southeast southern Asia, so that's where actually the tropical pack will come in. So it's just like, yeah, we have the Asian mountain area, which is inspired by like China, Japan, and all of like the nations and cultures in the Himalaya. And then we will eventually move into the southeast southern Asian area, which is, well, inspired by like Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines. Not so much India, I think. It's just like, well, it's definitely just Southeast Asia then. Anyways, moving on to the build. So yeah, this is another thing of just like, yeah, build things custom. You're going to hate yourself, because trying to figure out windows on an angular build like this with like the angular roof where the windows go straight up into the roof is pain, because you want like just the smooth window panes. You don't want to have like the weird curves of trying to fix it all. And so in the end, I just had to build some fencing. Maybe it's like air conditioning, like they open it up when it gets too hot. Maybe it's definitely just to hide that I didn't want to put like an angular window like frame, because then it would be lines in the window. And it, anyways, yeah, also just a giant circular window, because why not? No, actually, that comes straight out of the reference image. Like this is one of the few builds that was just like, oh yeah, this reference image is like 90% of the build. Most of the time I just kind of mix things in, try and figure out like, oh, I like this, but I don't like that, so let's just mix these things. And this one was just like, this is perfect for the aviary build, just because the huge amount of windows. Like this has become the eye catcher, as it should be. Anyways, let's move on to where the red-crowned cranes actually can get into the aviary. This one was another 3 AM build. Like, I think I did this like maybe like the day or the 2 days after I finished my internship. It was just like, I have no idea what to do with my life right now, because the biggest part of my life is now finished. Let's build this. Anyway, so I don't know where I actually got the idea of it from. I just woke up with the idea of like, oh, I want these just like huge sort of sliding doors, or like, I don't know how you call these doors. You will probably put it down in the comments because I'm a dumbass. Also put down in the comments if chickens can actually fly or not. I don't think they can, but I am not sure, which might just show how much of a dumbass I am. But I just wanted these doors to just like a fan, slide open. Also, that was like an idea that I had for like a piece of like an artwork for this habitat. I did build like a piece of artwork, but it's not that. But I had like this idea of like a glass fan. And then I realized the same thing with like the windows for this habitat or for this building. Yeah, it's not going to look very nice because you will need to use like multiple glass pieces, but then they are going to like overlap. And so you will have these weird like iron rails or iron bars in it. So it's going to look less like a fan and more like maybe like the wings of a dragonfly or something like that. And I didn't want that. So yeah, that piece of art isn't going to work. Although I am thinking of like a huge piece of art or artwork piece for the Southeast Asian area, which is probably going to kill me if I ever get to it, because I don't know why I want to do it, but it's like it's modern and futuristic and it will look nice if I can actually make it work, but I also have my limits. Not so much sanity-wise, because we all know that that's completely gone by this point. I mean, this habitat, oh boy, the interior of it, like the actual aviary inside of it, has been redone, I think, at least 3 times. Because I'm really trying to get better when it comes to plants and making things look a little bit more like an actual habitat would be instead of like just wild nature. Even though I still really like wild nature, so my habitats are also always going to be a little bit more wild than what you would actually see in a zoo. But then Naturalis is not supposed to be completely realistic. It's supposed to be like your zoo from the future where they have no budget limits and such and they can go completely wild. I mean, this is supposed to be a Dutch zoo and I'm building this on a mountain. That's going to be hell of expensive to just put this on a mountain. Which is, I think now, like this habitat is raised even higher than the snow leopard habitat. So I think it's like 16 meters higher, 14 meters higher than like the rest of Naturalis. Which, yeah, that's going to be very expensive to build. But then again, Naturalis doesn't have budgets or morals. I always like to think of like anything that I built, yeah, there's an evil corporation behind it that's like doing weapon smuggling or just dealing in weapons or like secretly transporting nuclear weapons throughout the world. I don't know why, I just like the idea of like, ooh, pristine zoo, and then the corporation behind it is just fully evil. But yeah, when it came to the actual inside or interior of the habitat or the aviary, it was really just a long time of just like, this doesn't work, this does work, and then at the end it doesn't work. Like a lot of times, like you have to kind of trust the process of like, oh, it looks terrible at the beginning and then it will look great at the end. Here it was like the total opposite. It looked great while I was building it. As soon as I was finished and looked back, it was just like, this is a mess. Maybe a bit like me. Looks great from afar. Then when you get closer, you see that I'm a total train wreck. Well, I've done pretty good at hiding that. Not so much in voiceovers, because there it's just like fully on display. Anyways, moving on, because I really like building small waterfalls. Sadly, you can't really do them in Plant Zoo, or like not to the extent that I would like to do them. But like, I built a small waterfall for the toilet building in the snow leopard habitat, or snow leopard build, which makes me question where that water is coming from. Maybe that's just like, oh yeah, you're pissing, and then it comes out of the fountain right next to you. Probably not, but it's just like, it's a little bit too close for comfort. Anyway, so when it came to the actual plants, it was just like, yeah, let's try to keep it separate. And then for the longest time, it was just like, oh yeah, there's definitely places or like what do you call it? Just like there's boundaries or like where the plants are and then where there's just dirt. And then eventually it was just like, yeah, I need more plants. Like it looks too barren. Like I like to have a little bit of wildness in my habitats. They're not realistic, but I like them. They are really just, to me, they just scratch that itch of just like, yeah, it's slightly realistic, but also pretty and colorful and wild. I also have no idea, like, nature-wise, it was just like, yeah, this looks nice, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. And then it ended up being something completely different than any of the reference image that I used. Images. My brain doesn't work today, but then when has it ever really worked? Anyways, then we get to the exterior, which is where that fan artwork was supposed to be, to really just shove this habitat in your face. And here it was a thing of like, trust the process, because it ended up looking really nice and really just shoving this habitat in your face. But in the beginning, it was just like, yeah, rings, a lot of rings. And again, like in the end, I really liked it. In the beginning, it was just like, what the hell am I doing? I also wanted to have like a, what is it, like a wheelchair ramp. For some reason, I forgot the word wheelchair for some reason. But I first wanted a wheelchair ramp that just went alongside the corner of this. But then I realized, oh yeah, to like be like good, like follow the laws and the rules, that wheelchair ramp had to be 20 meters. The aviary is not even 20 meters long, so that wheelchair ramp was just like, yeah, that's going to completely take over this place, so you're going to get an elevator instead. Which I actually did make bigger, because I think my previous wheelchair lifts and elevators haven't been large enough to actually, like, you could use it for a wheelchair, but if you had any larger mobility vehicle, you wouldn't be able to get into it. So there's still limited mobility, or like there's still like issues when it comes to Naturalis, because I was like singularly focused on like, oh, wheelchairs, anything, like anyone with crutches and such, those can use the wheelchair elevators as well. But if you have like any larger mobility vehicle, like one of those, I'm going to call it buggies, but that's probably not the right word for it. But if you need to use one of those, probably won't be able to use them, because I just was so singularly focused on wheelchairs that I only looked at like, oh, does this fit those? It does, but the larger mobility vehicles, nope. And then I just, when it came to the exterior, bonsai trees. I don't know why I never used these, like the rock, but then still tree pieces. Like these are supposed to be for trees. However, they are sectioned off in the catalog under rocks. Which makes me just kind of like, what? That doesn't... Anyway. There was also like another build that I kind of cut out of this video because it would be too long. I built just like to the side of the sleeping area for the red crown cranes. I built like a little keeper building, sectioned it off with a wall and such. Just because it just felt not finished just having this. So I just built a little keeper hut there, because I need to build more facilities. That's going to be a big thing going forward of like, oh yeah, I need facilities, because in the next video, we're finally going to have guests in the park or in the zoo, because I'm finally tackling the spawn point. And yes, one of you guys already said it to me. I'm building an entire city. Have fun with that. And if you do, or if you had fun with this video, throw a chicken at the subscribe button or the like button.